Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're gonna talk about this bike right behind me. This is my review on YT Jeffsy 27CF. This is the 2018 model, and they're pretty similar to the 2019 ones, but I think the 2019 ones are a little longer reach. But anyways, we're talking about this guy. So I've had this bike for a few weeks now, and I really dig it. But first, let's just give you a quick rundown of what this bike is. It's their trail bike. It's a little smaller than their Capra. 150mm front, 150mm back, 27.5 wheels. Front, I've got a Pike RCT3. Back is a Deluxe RT3. Oh, that's my kitty. He just moved his toy, and that's what that sound is. And it's got Shimano XT shifter, Shimano derailleur, XT derailleur, race face turbine cranks, race face cockpit, E13 seat post, E13 wheels, E13 tires, E13 cassette. But yeah, if you guys want to see the full specs and build in detail, here it is. And just pause the screen. And then here's the geometry screen as well for this year, the 2018. And then if you want to see how different it is from the 2019, just go to their website. So, how does this bike ride? I think it is a very balanced bike. Balanced in the sense that it just does everything pretty darn well. Like, this is the modern day trail bike. It climbs really well. I never use lockouts on anything. I think lockouts are dumb, especially since I always forget to unlock it at the top. So I never use lockout, and I don't feel pedal bob or anything on these. I should probably talk about setup. I weigh about 130 to 135. I'm 5'8" with fairly short legs and pretty long arms. I run 30% sag in the back, and the front, I can't really remember what pressure I'm running. I never think of sag in the front. I think setting up the fork with sag is kind of dumb. I can't remember how much pressure I'm running. I think it's like 55 pounds or something. I'll look it up, and here it is. Yeah. But I'm running like 2 clicks of low-speed compression damping in the front, and the rebound front and back is pretty fast. Just because. And I tend to run stuff stiffer than most people anyways, I think. Just because, you just sit higher in the travel. It's nice. You can pitch it harder, and you actually sit in the plusher part of the travel. Anyways, pedaling this thing is pretty good. It's efficient in a sense that even if I'm seated and I'm pedaling, efficient as hell. If I'm standing and I am putting down the watts, I don't really feel any bob, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure if it's because of anti-squat, which is helping with that, or whatever, but it pedals really well. But the biggest thing, why I think this bike is super balanced, really is because of the geometry. This bike is really flickable. And I attribute that to the reach not being stupid long. I think modern bikes right now are getting just way too long and too slack and too low and all that fun stuff. This thing is a 440mm reach. And it did come with a 50mm stem, but I've got a 35mm stem on there. So everything else on this bike is stock except for a 35mm stem, and yeah, it's got a 440mm reach, and it was just perfect. Because of that not crazy long reach, I was in a better mechanical advantage to, do stuff. And that way, like, creating lift was easier. I didn't have to exaggerate any motions or anything. I just flipped my hips a tiny bit, and the bike would just do what I wanted to. I didn't have to like muscle it around. Small, tiny bursts of movement was all it took to move the bike. yeah, because of how maneuverable it is and the reach not being that crazy long, I could actually be more of a rider, the pilot of the bike, as opposed to just a passenger. My buddy Ian Mossy will always say a stable bike does not mean a stable you. And I think long bikes, yes, they're stable as hell. And this is actually him. I listen to Ian a lot because he's like Yoda. But yeah, with bikes getting so long, they're stable, but they also take a lot more to make the bike do what you want, But yeah, I really, really like this thing. That short, I mean, I guess 440 mil isn't that short. But yeah, I'm coming from like, my operator's got a 453 mil reach with the 42 mil stem. And that thing is really, really hard to muscle around. And it's definitely not just the 200 mil of travel, it's the fit. But yeah, the whole thing of this being such a maneuverable bike, how flickable it is, it helps you like execute maneuvers so well. The amount of things you can do and make the bike do is amazing. And because of that, you can just like skip over the rough stuff. This bike is not as dead feeling as like some enduro bikes or long travel bikes where they just stick to the floor. It's not that kind of bike. It's a lively bike. It's just, it just skips over the rough stuff, and that's kind of a cool thing. I guess I'm talking more about like the Canfields and like the Nomads and stuff like that, and the new Nomads, which kind of like stick to the floor like Velcro. A bike like this kind of just skips over the rough. In a straight line, it doesn't really matter. Both are going to be just as fast. It's just a different style of riding, and you have to adapt. But yeah, I think like every bike's got its good thing. You just like adapt to what it's good at. But yeah, with this stuff, you just create lift and you launch off over all the rough stuff, and it is fast. It pumps very, very well. Anything you do to that rear axle, it just translates straight away. Any motion you do translates straight into the rear wheel immediately. So if you're at a pump track, if you're pumping a corner, if you're popping up jumps, if you're creating boost, if you're squashing a jump, like if you're whipping, hipping, it just translates it to the bike immediately, and that's really, really cool. There's like less wasted energy when you're trying to muscle the bike around. It's really nice being able to maneuver a bike so well and not just be a passenger. Because of because of the way that the bike handles like this. That's the sound of my cat climbing up the ladder. Because of the way the bike handles like this, it corners really, really well. Like cutties are so easy to do. Scandy flicks are so easy to do. Like if you're in the middle of a corner and you're understeering, and it just goes whoop, it's really, really cool. I really, really dig the way this bike rides. So yeah, it's not as planted as some other enduro bikes out there, but that's not a bad thing. Also, you got to remember, this is a trail bike. It's not a full-on like free ride rig, like it's a trail bike, and you should think of it as such. But it's definitely got some free ride DNA, and it's capable for sure. I have no trouble doing most of the stuff I do on my downhill bike on this thing. I've done cross-country rides on it, and I can ride all day because I'm not getting tired on the descents. I'm not getting tired on the climbs. It's really, really solid. So this bike came spec'd with these E13 TRS Plus tires. They kind of look like High Roller 2s. I've never ran them before until this bike, and I gotta say I really, really dig them. They're not like Maxxis, where you know how with Maxxis tires, like the DHFs especially, and the DHRs, you kind of like, you can lean it really, really far, and then when you're at the apex, it just spits you back up right. It's kind of like snappier. These tires are really cool in the sense that it's not like that, but you just have controlled drifts through the corner all the time. I dig it. Maybe it's just because it's summer out here in California right now and everything's super blown out. So I'm either riding really, really loose loam in the redwoods or just brown pow over rocks. Who knows? But that's what these bikes have been feeling like so far. I still have tubes in these too, by the way, and I've been running them at 26, 27 pounds in the front and 29 to 30 pounds in the back. Yeah, I run stuff pretty hard anyways, even when I'm running tubeless on the DHF DHRs. I just don't like my tires folding in the corners, and I like my tires not burping when I'm hitting shit hard. But that's just me. And yeah, I also run my suspension pretty stiff. Stiff and fast. Yeah, I think like most people like set up suspension to feel good in the parking lot, and then, and most manufactured suggested settings are to feel good in a parking lot, so they sell bikes at a bike shop. Yeah, man, if it's gonna feel good in the parking lot, it's not gonna feel good on the trail, dude. I think, but I could be wrong. But that's my experience. That's my personal experience. Take it as you will. Okay, this bike, tire clearance. You've got plenty of tire clearance in the front. You could probably fit a 2.8 in the front. The back, you've got a little bit of room. You could fit a 2.5. You can maybe squeeze a 2.6. But yeah, not a big deal. I'm running these 2.3s and I dig them. Really, really like them. But yeah, I really dig this bike. Like, it just does everything well. It corners well. It skips over the rough stuff well. It takes rider input very well. It pops. Yeah. Dig it. The whole thing weighed about 30.51 pounds with the tubes and the tires. Oh, and I've got these Shimano M737 pedals on there too. They were what was in my box of spares, so that probably adds to the weight there. But 30.51 pounds, and yeah, that's what that is. So dig it. Now, what I don't like about the bike. There are a few things for sure. And the bike is so good that at this point, I just had to nitpick, right? So there are these internal routing for your derailleur, your rear derailleur, and they come with these little rubber stoppers to keep the housing from sliding up and down. Those still slide up and down, so that's kind of a bummer. But a buddy of mine actually showed me a little trick he did, which he actually used cable ties. And then you use these little cable ties as memory locks, kind of like what you would find on drum set hardware, where you use memory locks to keep the stance from sliding and moving and stuff. And apparently it doesn't slide out in and out anymore, so that's kind of cool. So keep that in mind. If you're getting one of these, you might want to do that. I haven't done it on this one yet, but I am going to this week. What else? Seat post. This E13's TRS seat post. It's really, really smooth action. It's got a little bit of wiggle in the nose, but I mean, I think most droppers do that at this point. What I don't like about it though is that when you actually like sit down and you drop it, it does a little clunk. Yeah, I don't like that sound at all. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Aside from that, it's got a pretty smooth actuation. I think it's one of those it's one of those coil droppers. Rear axle is one of those DT Swiss 12 mil thread and through axles. Those come loose every once in a while, so check in on that. I'm not sure if it's a Jeffsy thing or if it's just this bike. And once again, like, I am like nitpicking at this point, right? When it's rattling the chain, you can actually hear sounds from the chain on the chain ring. That's kind of a annoying sound because everything else on the bike is so quiet. That's one of those things. So once again, I am nitpicking. Chain stays are really wide with the boot spacing that my heels do rub, and I've already like rubbed out some of this. I tore some of this clear frame protection tape on there with my heels already, which is a bummer. Yeah, and this one is definitely just for me. I don't like loud hubs at all. This E13 hub is so loud. Oh my god. But it might be a pro for you. But yeah, anyways, once again, I'm just nitpicking because everything else about the bike has been absolutely stunner. Yeah, the bike is just a really, really good descender. It climbs really, really well. It's fun to ride on pretty much any kind of trail. Like if you're on a flow trail, if you're on like tight, like really, when I say tight, I mean really, really tight trails. When you're in the rough stuff, okay, this is when you have to be comfortable with bikes that are lively and want to skip over to stuff. But I dig it because you just skip over to stuff. Obstacles aren't there if you just, fly over them. But yeah, these are my thoughts on the YT Jeffsy 27 CF. Yeah, this is definitely at this point one of the bikes I would be considering to getting for myself. I only have this bike for a few weeks, and I'm going to be returning it pretty soon. And I'm actually in the market for another bike. For a trail bike, actually. I will tell you guys my list of bikes in another video at some point. But this is definitely one I'm considering if I can find one for a good deal. I really, really dig it. After I return this one, I have a Trek Remedy lined up to test out. So keep a lookout for that. So click here. Don't forget to click here to subscribe, guys. I think 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. So click here to subscribe. Click here for the latest uploaded video. Click here for my first impressions of the Jeffsy. And I guess click here for me following some OGs on the Jeffsy. Y'all have a good day, and once again, drop in some comments, man. Ask some questions. Give me some suggestions on bikes to try out, and I'll see what I can do on trying to get a hold in one. And yeah, y'all have a good day. Bye.